Welcome to this week's episode of Lifts. It's going to be an exciting episode. We've got some great stories and we've got a wonderful guest, Mo.
Yeah, and it's early for you. It's an early morning for you, for us at least, recording Lyft. But we've got a special episode. We've got an exciting guest in Ross Campbell. It's my privilege to introduce Ross to the Lyfts community. Most of you already probably have known of him or you are familiar with his events. Ross is a lifelong health and fitness fanatic, studying sports science and physiology at the University of Glasgow before attending an honors degree in neuroscience, reading physiology, biology, anatomy, pharmacology, and neuroscience. Ross, I did not know a lot of that about you, but I'm going to introduce you as the founder and CEO of Beyond Activ. And I think, kind of given the times, and we're going to get into the pillars of the conference itself, but given the times that we're in, where we talk a lot about the intersection of fitness and healthcare, I think you are even more relevant in really kind of being in the middle of this evolution that we're going through. So, welcome to Lifts. We have a lot to talk about, and we are excited to have you on.
Thanks, Mo. Thanks, Matthew. Pleasure to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Well, we was out, what was it? January, February? We're in Saudi, Mo.
I think
Was
it's
that
February. February.
February? Yeah. And it was the first time two firsts really. One, first time I've been to a Beyond Activ event, and second, first time I've been to Saudi. And I have to say, not just because you're here, I'd say this to anyone, but two things. One, really, really impressed with Saudi. That was a fantastic country, lovely people, great, fantastic opportunities in that market. But the event itself was really top notch. I've done many events in the fitness industry over 25 years, and I think the quality of the people that were there, the networking, and just the overall organization was very impressive. So I'm very excited about seeing what it will look like in New York, which is, I guess, my home market at the time.
Yeah, look, we're excited to come. I think for us, the collaboration of all types of operators, facility owners, and then you sprinkle on top suppliers, distributors, investors. There's a really good conversation to happen there, gents, on the future of investment in the marketplace. So we're happy to have that platform. We're proud to have that platform in the marketplace, and New York will certainly go gangbusters.
Well, Ross, I've never been one who's been shy to reach out to you. Anytime I've had a question around the industry, around the market, around introductions, you've always made yourself incredibly available. You've got this really engaging WhatsApp group, and you and your whole team just always seems to be in the middle of connecting and networking and really helping people. And hopefully people return the favor. So anytime you reach out to Matthew and myself, we try to do whatever we can to help advance your initiatives or help someone within your network. What about the industry? Maybe it's the conference, but anything about the industry which you find to be either compelling or interesting or exciting to kind of put you in the middle and bringing all these people together?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think people, again, to your earlier comments and previous Lift podcasts, people want real life experiences again, and they want meaningful connections. And I think if you can kind of package that up into a really good experience with entertainment and a little bit of fun, I think you can put together a really good 2 or 3 days for people to enjoy. I think what people have been so busy in the last couple of years is rebuilding their businesses. And as a result of that, I think their Rolodex has taken a bit of a kind of second step back. Our job is to make sure that people come to these events and they can reconnect with some great customers, some great prospects, some great investors, and some great knowledge and insight. It's not really rocket science what we do. I think what we're trying to really do is just make sure what we do is of the absolute highest of quality, and we don't waste people's time. And we don't want to waste our time, and we definitely don't want to waste the time with people who come to our events.
Well, I think that's a good place to get into the first story. Most put together 3 topics that are going to be subjects that will be discussed at your event in New York in a few weeks' time. And the first one here is the crossroads for boutique fitness and wellness, and what do they need to do to outperform the market? And we put a little bit of a sensitive one on first, but I think it will sort of give us some material to chat about. And one of the things that we've seen recently, Mo and I exchanged the Huberman interview with Stacy Sims, which came out a little while ago, and there seems to be a number of information and articles. But now there's this talk about, well, is HIIT is HIIT for everybody, particularly for the for females that are in their sort of 40s and 50s, which has been predominantly the target group for some of these sort of HIIT style studios. And so just wondered, if either of you have listened or read any of these articles, and if you've got any views on that.
Yeah, I think HIIT's turned into a poison chalice. I think it was initially a great advertisement for the marketplace, a really exciting workout. Reality is, for sustainability, it's very, very tough to try and get a customer to stick to a HIIT routine for 1, 2, or 3 years. I think what we saw in the transition of certainly, I would say, boutique franchisors is the replacement of marketing HIIT classes with marketing strength and conditioning and boot camps and circuit classes. And I think that transition from high intensity workouts to kind of middle intensity, strength-based, conditioning-based workouts, I think that's a trend that we're seeing now across the globe. And those franchisors are actually having the kind of the wind behind their sail at the moment. They really are pushing on going forward. I think the HIIT franchisors are really kind of slowing down their pace of growth. I don't know if you're seeing the same, Mo, but that's certainly what we're seeing in the eastern part of the world.
Yeah, I think most of what you said aligns with what we're seeing out here in the U.S. and the Western markets. I would add, look, when CrossFit first came out, it kind of brought a lot of good things, community, Olympic lifting, but also brought HIIT to the forefront, and it brought this concept of moving heavyweight really fast for short periods of time and doing this high intensity workout. It had almost 100% injury rate. And one of the best things to do to improve your longevity and your fitness is not to get injured, right? If you could avoid being injured, you get to enjoy being more active, you'll tend to stay fitter, you'll tend to stay in shape more. Then you had the explosion of boutique fitness, specifically around HIIT. And it could be indoor cycling, like a Soul Cycle. It could be an Orange Theory. And I think what you found, especially over the last decade, is a lot of these HIIT brands, to your point, Ross, they're looking for diversity. I mean, we've worked with Soul Cycle, we work with Orange Theory, and I want to, bring about 2 examples. In Soul Cycle, they've actually tried to change the format where they've said, yes, we are riding to the beat of the music, but we're going to have different intensities of classes within there. So you're not going all out and raising a heart rate into zone 4, zone 5 every single day. Orange Theory, as an example, launched something called Strength 60 last year, wherein that you could have days where you do the traditional class, you've got days where you could do the strength class or cardio class and so on. They also merged with Anytime or SEB. And I think a lot of those strategies that we're seeing is because I think these brands recognize that doing HIIT every single day is probably not a good thing for you. Now, the new data coming around women, and for those of you that haven't listened to the Human podcast with Stacy Sims, we should link it, but I would advise you to go listen to it because it was really enlightening in terms of the research that she was able to pull together and complete it herself that really showed that HIIT could in fact be detrimental to your health. Too much HIIT rather. So not, you don't have to avoid HIIT completely, but doing HIIT too much could be detrimental to your health.
The other one that seems to be, I guess, balancing off that message, and obviously there's motivation behind it, but there's, you're seeing brands that are probably, Pilates, for example, that are kind of positioning themselves as more of a suitable workout for that demographic. Now, how much of that is jumping in on an opportunity to say, hey, this is something new and this is what everybody should do now. Whether there's much research behind it or not, I don't know. But I'm certainly seeing off the back of the sort of more slow down, recover, relax, stretch, don't beat yourself up too much. You're seeing products that are coming out now that are sort of telling a slightly different story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And look, Pilates, at least from a lot of angles here in the US, seems to be on a unstoppable, which I'm very careful using that term, growth mode. Solid Core obviously has been really crushing it. Brian Myers, who is a friend of all of us, has been doing a really good job leading that organization. And you've seen Pilates grow. Now, I don't know if that's because of limited capacity. I don't know what the SAM of Pilates ultimately is going to end up being, but it is a new modality. I would not categorize it specifically as HIIT. It is high intensity, but I wouldn't say it's interval training in the traditional sense of how we think about it. But no, I do think that Pilates, and I know we've talked about P-Volve as well before, those kinds of exercises and functional movement is definitely having strength being gained here.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at the kind of explosion of the strength franchisor and the boutiques world, you've got BFT, Body Fit Training, that's now over kind of almost 300, I think, gyms globally. You've got Fitstop, Revel, S30. I mean, the list goes on, and these are essentially the kind of strength conditioning franchisors that are making some huge steps into the marketplace. And I think they're overtaking the momentum of the traditional HIIT concept. On the Pilates front, I mean, just give you some examples in Australia. You've got numerous brands in Australia. KX Pilates has over 100 different studios inside of Australia alone. Studio Pilates is almost 100. Strong
Wow.
Pilates coming up to 50 just now. Core Plus, another 30 plus. And these are all now international brands. So the Pilates juggernaut is absolutely on a roll. The question is, when does it stop? Because I think what's been very interesting in the Pilates space is the health club, the traditional big box club, has started to adopt Pilates classes into their kind of general offering. I don't think a lot of the kind of traditional gym health club space has actually started to adopt, I would say, strength and conditioning, or maybe mid-cycle training into there. So the HIIT segment is definitely on the decrease. I think the strength and conditioning, the kind of middle interval training, is definitely on a rise, and that's there to stay. And I think Pilates is absolutely in a world of its own.
Well, we'll move on to the next topic, which will also be discussed at your event, and it's wellness-centric hospitality. We've got an article here from Equinox Saudi. This is on Business Insider. This is Equinox signs up for NEOM, and there's some very impressive images about what this is going to look like. And interesting, I guess, for Equinox, because they've got, from what I heard, they've got their domestic market here, which they're, seems as though they're still, turning around from the pandemic or sort of restructuring themselves. So this looks like an extremely ambitious project in a different part of the world in a very, very different market. So I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this and really, what this means for Equinox as a brand.
Yeah, I actually think this might be Equinox's, it's either their second resort in Saudi or they kind of moved the first resort. So initially, Equinox had announced plans with a resort called Amala, which is run by Red Sea Global. And I believe, Ross, you've not only had Red Sea Global as a guest at Beyond Activ in Riyadh, I believe you might even have Equinox represented at the event coming up here in New York. But look, Equinox has been an aspirational brand, not only for members to join, but for other gyms around the world to look at. They have incredible brand equity, and they're really known for premium quality and a lifestyle-oriented product. They opened up the first hotel pre-pandemic in the Hudson Yards, and if you haven't stayed there, it's a wonderful hotel. It's they think about every detail, from the duvet covers to the curtains to even booking your SoulCycle class right from an iPad within the room. They've kind of thought through every detail. The water coming down the showers is pH balanced. I mean, everything about it is just fantastic. I think them going into Amala, and if NEOM is the second resort that they're going to open up, it's a great product for the market. And if anyone understands holistic wellness in a luxury, premium, hospitality-focused delivery, it's going to be Equinox. I'm excited to see what they open up in the region.
Do you know if it's them doing it, and are they running the hotels themselves, or is it, are they having a management company do that for them? Do you know? Does anyone know?
I know in Amala, with Red Sea Global, they do have a management company running it. I'm not sure about this new one that's going to be in NEOM.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of give you some more context on that, I mean, Amala is part of a kind of giga project in Saudi Arabia called Red Sea Global. That's one large kind of development on the Red Sea. The second large development is called NEOM. There are other large giga projects happening across Saudi Arabia. Now, most of these projects is in the capacity of having at least 1 to 2 dozen different hotels inside their actually overall footprint. So the Red Sea project, I believe, has something along the lines of 40 different hotels. Most of those hotels have to be somewhat wellness orientated, because Red Sea Global is supposed to be a wellness tourism destination. So not just Equinox, but you have the likes of Accor, a Man, Mandarin Oriental, Six Senses. I mean, a whole array of different competitors here that are all espousing some quite phenomenal wellness-centric hospitality brands. In addition, you've also got, I suppose, these kind of new domestic champions in the Middle East popping up. Kurzna, for example, is launching a brand new hotel, just launched one in Dubai recently. It's an unbelievable wellness facility with its own kind of full floor of gym, full floor of health. So I think in that kind of wellness hospitality space, it's becoming very, very competitive. It does depend if the hotel or the hotel group, should I say, is trying to sell wellness as a service, or if wellness is actually part of its DNA. And very interesting to what you say, Mo, these are now large buyers of equipment, services, technology, third-party ancillary services for wellness, whether that's healthcare, spa, fitness, well-being. They're all being put into this kind of traditional hotel offering. So it's a really, really exciting space here. I think in the US, of course, Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, they're all, of course, doing some very interesting things in room, as well as obviously expanding their presence in the traditional spa area. But at the moment, when it comes to these huge projects overseas, they've basically got a white canvas, a blank canvas to try and redraw what wellness and well-being could look like in the 21st century.
The wait is over. Our new Escape Fitness catalogue has landed. This is the essential guide to all of the latest product innovations that are shaping the future of functional training. Bigger and better than ever, this year's catalogue is 190 pages, jam-packed with everything from eye-catching, bespoke functional training frames to some of the latest strength training equipment. So sign up today to receive the digital version today. So what are you waiting for? Go to escapefitness.com now.
How do you think it, from a business perspective, I know Equinox had an expansion just before the pandemic into London, which I think seems to have slowed down a little bit now. They're predominantly US based, as I mentioned earlier. Like, how do you think being in the sort of fitness and health club space, how do you think this is to manage, is this a good thing for investors to provide confidence that things are going well, we're expanding our business into different areas internationally? Like, how do you look at that sort of both internally and also externally from an investor perspective, would you think?
In terms of what we get kind of feedback, look, there's definitely a renewed sense of enthusiasm and optimism about investing in the wellness space. Now, of course, the kind of real estate investors that are putting the money into these hotel groups for the likes of Hilton or Hyatt or Accor to manage them, it's basically their preference on what actually goes inside that hotel. So they're now positively choosing to add in more wellness facilities and more wellness services into their properties for a competitive advantage. Now, I'm not going to discredit Equinox. They are a phenomenal group when it comes to the fitness world. But once you step into the hospitality world, you have to consider the scale and the influence that these brands have. Accor has thousands of hotels. Hyatt has hundreds of hotels. And so when you actually look at that as a kind of footprint in terms of their leisure, recreation, or fitness space, these hotel groups have hundreds of different spaces in which to utilize across the globe. And again, I think if they just turned a few levers and tweaked a few dials, all of a sudden you could see these hotel players in the future become really meaningful players inside the wellness and fitness space. So absolutely love what Equinox is doing. Second Hotel is amazing, but again, it dwarfs into comparison once you actually compare it to these larger giants in the hospitality space.
Look, I think so much of what we're seeing today is really this exogenous evolution happening in the industry. When you think about the hotel, the first hotel in the modern way was really the Holiday Inn, and Holiday Inn was founded by Clemens Wilson rather, in 1951. And he got this idea going on a road trip from New York to Florida and was only staying in motels, and he was looking for a place that had amenities for his family. So the first hotel was really founded as a place to stay. Maybe you have some food, you have a pool, because that's what people were looking for. Hotels were a place to spend time on a road trip. And therefore, the first hotel was born over 7 years ago. Today, the consumer's changed. Hotels aren't just a stopover. They're just not a place to stay. Maybe you have these mega resorts that are being built around the world, and we've seen the evolution of that. Now, with the modern consumer, so much of the focus, like what we see in our industry, has been on holistic wellness. So a hotel has to serve that consumer. And when you're searching for where you're going to spend, even if it's one night, I certainly look for, if I'm driving my car, is there a Tesla charger at the hotel? Do they have a gym at the hotel? What food options are there at the hotel, right? Yeah, and I know Matthew does as well because we constantly talk about this. We were planning a trip to Germany. I think we're looking at who's got the closest gym. But these are the things that consumers look at. So the fact that you can bundle it in, they are priced at a premium, but consumers are going to add up the number in their head and say, okay, well, I'm going to be paying $50 for this or $100 for this. And if a hotel can offer all of these things to me and I could feel recharged and re-energized, they're going to make that choice to pick that hotel.
Yeah, maybe just one closing thought before we go, gents, is the rise of wellness-driven residencies. And I think once you start looking at these kind of large hotel chains, maybe they had a 500-bedroom hotel on a traditional real estate lot. Now they have a 250-bed hotel space in that lot. And the other half of that real estate, they've actually divided into residencies that they actually can sell off at a higher price. And they can sell them off as wellness-driven residencies to potential buyers. Now, not only do they have to cater for that wellness-driven consumer at a kind of a residence level, but of course what they end up getting is a lot faster payback on the initial return because they're selling 25 condominiums straight away at full price. And then the hotel chips back the money, of course, over the course of the next 25 years. So the kind of strategy going forward of these hotel groups when they're building not only wellness-centric hotels, but wellness-centric residencies is another really interesting dynamic going forward.
Well, we're going to move on to the next subject, which is new developments in wellness, recovery, and longevity. And we've got a story about Dexcom, and this is really your area, Mo. So I'm going to hand over to you on this one.
Yeah, and just for the audience to know, I mean, as we're going through this, these are pillars at the Beyond Activ conference, and this one's really interesting. So, what we constantly are looking at is, again, the new evolution, the new technologies which are coming through that have an impact, and you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. So in the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of fluctuation in the public markets, but I've been paying attention to two particular areas. One is the impact of GLP-1, and second is AI. And since last year, we've been talking about the impact that GLP-1 is going to have. And a lot of companies were being silent to it, not really taking action to it. Well, here you go. Dexcom is one of the largest, maybe the second largest manufacturer of continuous glucose monitors. They're based in Southern California and San Diego. And with their latest earnings, their shares plunged more than 40% for the worst day on record. This is a company that's been around since 2005. They typically serve consumers with diabetes. They were really betting and hedging on the wellness boom. They did not see GLP-1 coming around the corner. And we talked about the impact that GLP-1 is going to have. This is one of them. I think you'll see others around fast food restaurants, unhealthy eating choices, knee replacements, bariatric surgery, and some other things as well. But I think this is one, Ross, that I'm excited to connect with a lot of folks at your conference coming up in New York and just kind of talk through what their strategies are to either embrace the change that's happening or go on the offensive with some of the changes that the consumer is going to be seeing.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that the US market is leading the GLP-1 craze at the moment in time. I think the other markets globally that we represent and we look at, GLP-1s just simply aren't available or simply aren't being adopted by health clubs en masse, gentlemen. Now, of course, everyone's coming to New York to make sure they can understand if they do come en masse, how do you actually incorporate those solutions into your overall product? I think GLP-1s are a very interesting dynamic going forward. I do see them as a disruptor, especially globally. I think when it comes to the glucose monitoring, what's interesting, of course, is that holy grail of when a non-invasive glucose monitor can be put on a wearable. And I think once that comes at some point, then people will be really interested to see what happens with the future of glucose monitors. But that is a long way off. That is a holy grail. But at the moment, all eyes are peeled on GLP-1s and see where they go in the US.
I think with all of these, you mentioned GLP-1, Mo, in your notes, you mentioned NVIDIA and AI and the AI is obviously AI and GLP-1s, as you say, seem to be hitting the news every day. And I think there's you have to be, I certainly have to be conscious that a lot of these large companies that tend to get the headlines, the Googles, the Apples, etc., almost Microsoft, they have to be in that space, and they can generally afford to put a significant budget, hundreds of millions into seeing what happens, and if it doesn't work, so what? And if it does work, it could transform the business and ensure they're a key player. I think when that gets, that and those stories get a lot of headlines, but I think when that gets down to smaller companies, and you can apply this to any industry, I think sometimes there's a temptation to jump in too soon on these ideas, and in some cases for a smaller company, it means seriously restructuring the direction of your business to build some of these things in. And what inevitably happens is you get a rise and you get a fall, and then everybody kind of rethinks where they're going to go. So I think sometimes it's keeping an eye on these ideas, but maybe not rushing too soon from what's core, and distracting yourself from where you really generating the majority of your income.
Well, there's definitely a major shift happening in technology, and I want to bring up two examples. One is Intel, again, like Dexcom, has seen their shares plummet, and a lot of it is because they have frankly fallen behind AI chips and manufacturing to NVIDIA. And NVIDIA now has become the third most valuable company in the world. 5 years ago, most people did not know NVIDIA. They did not know GLP-1. The second one I'll talk about is Apple and Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett had a significant stake in Apple. I believe he started investing in Apple about 10 years ago. And before that, he typically stayed away from technology stocks. Well, he just sold this week about 50% of his shares in Apple. So what does that mean when you're looking at these traditional companies, Dexcom, Intel, Apple? These were blue chip stalwarts that everyone believed were a safe bet for you to invest in. But you're seeing really smart investors, really smart people say, as much as I love and trust these brands, there is a new coming and a new wave of technology that is going to change the world and going to have an exponential impact on every single industry. And I think GLP-1 and AI, I know we talk about it a lot on this podcast, are going to be topics that we continue to talk about. And again, one I'm really looking forward to having conversations with in New York in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's also an element more of just profit taking, right? I mean, the markets have been so big and inflated for so long. People have made so much money. There has been an element just of taking the profit off. I think when you come kind of back to maybe, looking at what's hot and what's not inside the fitness market, it's kind of come full circle back to the kind of old technologies of cryotherapy, infrared sauna. I mean, I think that's where we're starting to see a lot of investment inside the fitness world at the moment in time. The recovery, the rehab, the rest. There's some amazing wellness franchisors that are absolutely booming at the moment in time. Aspire Sauna are doing an amazing job. iCryo are also doing an amazing job. You've got big investments like Remedy Place, Othership, The Well. I mean, these are companies that are really investing purely in that kind of holistic wellness angle. But when it comes to the likes of AI, I think our industry's a long way off it at the moment in time. And I think the ripples and disruptions will inevitably hit all of us. But I don't know if it will have a huge impact on the fitness industry.
Well, that's actually the next topic that we have. So Matthew, I will lead it off to you.
Well, the next story is growth and innovation investment opportunities in the premium luxury market. And we've got a story about Delta's first ultra luxury first class lounge attempts to win back its highest paying customers with a shower, massage, and seems to be some kind of like wellness retreat at JFK in New York, I believe.
Yeah, this is something that, look, how many times have we all, even if you travel once a year, you inevitably get stuck losing a connection, a flight gets delayed, and there's nowhere really to spend time. And you said, look, even if I could spend $50 or $100, I'm stuck at an airport for 5 hours. I'd rather have a nice shower, get refreshed, maybe have a workout in. So you're seeing these lounges get better and better, and lounges, frankly, have been going the wrong direction. I don't know about you guys, at least Roth internationally. You live in a city and a country that has the best airport year after year, Singapore, so you might be a little bit spoiled. But for the rest of us that have to deal with American airports, I think lounges have been going the wrong direction for many years. So I'm really happy to see airlines and airports reinvest in lounges and also put wellness at the forefront.
Is this something you're seeing in Asia, or it's already good? I would agree to Mo. Like I've traveled quite a bit in Asia and even the Middle East, and whenever you go into a lounge there, you just it's almost like the highlight of the trip. because they're just so good. But I think when you look at some of the European, and particularly in American, I think the American ones have got to be some of the worst in the world, actually. But you kind of left with stale sandwiches and a couple of old guys on a laptop in a corner.
I don't think it's hit Asia just yet. I mean, we do have the inclusion of gyms now inside of some of the Asian airports, which is great, of course, to see. I think when it comes to the kind of premium luxury offerings, Asia has never really had that for several years, but it is now growing, actually. And I think what you're seeing, maybe not in the airports per se, but are these kind of large, kind of private, wellness-driven social clubs that are now appearing across Asia and across Australia. And these are the kind of huge facilities that are now being born with holistic wellness, hotels, five-star nutritional restaurants. So I think that kind of collective investment inside the kind of luxury market is now being made inside the Asia-Pacific region. But Changi Airport, gentlemen, is absolutely terrific. I mean, if you've never been to Singapore, ladies and gentlemen, you can get in and out of Changi Airport in under 15 minutes.
Well, and also you've got this wonderful train that takes you downtown really quick.
The train takes you down there really quickly, but a taxi takes you anywhere in 15 minutes.
And it's clean. Everything is incredibly clean. I don't know how they do it,
good.
but every time I've gone in that train or the taxi, everything is spotless over in Singapore. It's pretty incredible how you're able to make that work.
We are very blessed, gentlemen, very blessed.
That's all we've got time for this week. Ross, if anyone is interested in attending the event in New York, have you still selling tickets at this stage?
Yeah, there's still tickets for sale, gentlemen. It's www.beyondactiv.com if anyone has an interest in coming along to New York. It's on the 17th and the 18th of September at the Marriott Marquis in Times Square. It's 2 fantastic days. Obviously, we'll have the Lift podcast there doing podcasts, and looking forward to having both of you there, gents. But we're privileged. We get to spend all day having conversations like these with amazing people. And we'll be doing that face-to-face in New York over those 2 days, and we invite you to attend.
Well, real quick, before we sign off, I'd like to end the episode with one big takeaway. Ross, you've got, I think, over 750 people coming to this event. A lot of people who I know, who Matthew knows, people traveling from all over the world. If there is one big takeaway or something to look forward to, what would that be for people attending New York in September?
Yeah, I think it's just not your normal event, gents. I mean, I'll give you an idea. We've got the CEOs coming and speaking from Life Fitness, Core Health and Fitness, Merithue, Precor, Free Motion. We've got the CEO coming from Cult Fit. That's a gym, India's largest gym with over 600 gyms coming to speak. We've got the CEO of Lijam Sports and the chairman of Lijam Sports. As you know, they're the largest gym in Middle East and North Africa, market cap of $3 billion. And so the goal is never just to try and make sure this is an event just for people that you know. It's for it to be a worldwide celebration of health, fitness, and wellness. It just happens to be in New York. In addition, of course, we've then got the capital markets represented. So fund managers and investors are coming along to make sure you have some different people to meet.
Matthew, how about you? I know we are talking about travel plans and working on our schedule for that week. What is your big takeaway?
Thinking back to the time we had in Saudi, then for me it was great. Obviously, we had the podcast there, so we got to talk to a lot of people. Outside of the event, there was some fantastic networking, and so for me, it was I came back with some great insights, not only about that specific market, but about how the industry was developing in that part of the world. I think with it being in New York, this is particularly of interest to me because there's not really any events where they're structured in this type of way, and you're able to look at a lot of different pieces of information from different perspectives with different people. So I'm really looking forward to going there with lots of questions and seeing what I can take personally about where our business is going and where the business for a lot of our clients are going over the next 12 months. And I'm going to be looking forward to sharing that with you guys, in the weeks following the event. Mo, what about yourself?
Well, I think when I look at a lot of conferences, and we do attend quite a few conferences throughout the years, they tend to be either national or regional or very vertical focused. And if this year has shown us anything, is that you've got to be keeping your eyes and ears to the ground and looking for developments, evolutions, innovations in all parts of the world and in different industries within our industry. I mean, we were texting, all three of us, about this HVLP gym in Japan called Coco Zap. I never heard of them until this week. So, and they have over 1,000 locations in Japan, and they're now growing internationally. Well, if I didn't have a strong network of people to talk to, if I didn't have events, Ross, like the people that you're bringing together, to your point, people from Saudi, people from India, people from all over the US and Europe, there might be innovations and strategies and ideas that come from a very diverse, multinational audience with key thought leaders from around the world that is compelling. And so to me, that's what I'm looking forward to, is really saying, look, here are the issues that we're seeing, here are the opportunities that we're seeing. What do you see? And really listening to some of the experts who are going to be there.
Well, that's it for this week. Ross, thank you very much for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you shortly in New York. If anybody is curious, then we'll put the details of the event in the notes, podcast notes, YouTube notes, etc. So you can go and check it out. I would definitely, if you're able to make it, I'd definitely suggest that you do check it out, because they're very, very high quality and valuable events. Certainly, that's been my experience. And if you enjoyed this episode, then please share it with a couple of people. We want to get this out to more and more people from within the industry. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode.